For musicians on the road, every night means a new town and another day away from home. With Chicago as the backdrop, Julia Fordham, October Project, and Sean Colvin provide a revealing glimpse of life on tour.
Well, you know, although the road's miserable, we're finding out that it's only from being on the road that we're getting people to know about us. You know, there's no choice.
For a brief moment, experience life on the road with these remarkable artists. Life on the road is never easy, but for the band October Project, it just got a little better. They're opening for acclaimed Canadian singer Sarah McLachlan, whose sold-out North American tour offers October Project a chance to perform for new audiences. Today, the tour brings the band's 5 performing members to Chicago's Skyline Stage on the shores of Lake Michigan, while the group's 6th member, lyricist Julie Flanders, pursues writing and acting ventures in New York.
I think it was a magical moment. We'd all known each other for a long time, and once we met Mary, we all got together as musicians, and it just seemed to be the right time in everybody's life to do a band. And you have to consider that magical because it's so difficult to get 5 people, 6 people together to commit so much time and energy to and focus on something like, you know, this kind of life. So we managed to do it. We've been around since 1990. That's when our first gig was on the Bond Street Cafe in New York,
yeah,
which is a rock and roll.
You might want to call it the Bondage Street Cafe.
Yeah, it was a leather kind of club.
Wrong place.
But we were just desperate to play anywhere, and Mary got that gig for us.
We were all at a point in our lives when we were willing and available, and you know, bear in mind, we all had regular jobs too. You know, we were adults. You know, we had bills to pay, and yet there was something that was a force that was greater than ourselves, you know, seemingly, that pulled us into this so that it was, in effect, a kind of gravitational pull that none of us could, you know, sort of pull back from, you know. So everything else went on the back burner. And we were all extremely tunnel visioned and very, very focused about it.
You know, what drew us all together as a group were the songs and the content of the songs and the beauty of the melodies, and I think we all responded to that on a primal level. And then we brought our own individual influences to the process. You know, I brought my classical background and, you know, crafting some of the string parts and the vocal harmonies, and but what brought us together were the songs. We all responded to them personally and felt these were songs that we would love to be involved in bringing forth to the world. So the fact that we are doing it and we've been so lucky as to get a record deal is a magnificent opportunity for all of us. And I mean, I think we'll all look back years from now and go, you know, we were blessed to have the opportunity. Life is full of riches, including sadness and happiness, and you know, sadness is a very rich emotion, and if you can make it more, if you can ease the sadness for someone, allow the expression of that sadness, but kind of in a safe safety net, which I think some of our songs do. They're very moving, but it allows you to have that emotion for that period of time and then come out of it feeling like, you know, someone was embracing you through the process.
I think the longest we've been out it's been about 6 weeks at a clip, and this one's going to be about 5, I think, and then we're going to be home for a couple weeks. It usually works out we're out for 5 or 6, and then we're home for a week or 2. So I think, what's your percentage? 75% of the time?
We tried to figure it out some time ago. It's something like 80%, 75 or 80% of the year has been spent away from home on the road. Which I don't know if that's a really high percentage. You know, we hear stories about bands who are out for 16 months at a time, and I mean they're out. There are very few times they come home. So maybe we're blessed. 5 weeks out, 1 week back. You know you get to regroup, you feel better, and then out you go again. And it's also that they send you out as often as they do is an indication of the health of your band. You know, if they started saying, well, why don't you just sort of stay home and look for day work?
I think one of the things that wears you down even more than the traveling is the lack of privacy. You know, just even finding a payphone that's private. You know, we're all scurrying around and you get there and then there's a line already.
Yeah, people are waiting there looking at you with their arms folded like, aren't you done yet?
It builds up with people on different days. There'll be days when Dave will look and say, I just want to go home today.
It's funny, it all just happened. I watched everybody go through it within the last, we've been out for about 3 weeks now, and everybody within about 3 days had that same, like, that kind of forlorn look, like, I'm really homesick kind of feeling. It just hits you. And then you start thinking, well, how much more time before I go home?
Emil does a very good Oscar-winning performance of how he feels.
The shadows dancing, dancing on their own. Let the moment free you now and leave it all behind you. I'll know where you go. Let the world go on.
You have to do this weighing it out. We don't know what things are going to end up being. That's the one of talking control. This show, we don't know what the final product's going to be. So you're already by committing yourself to doing something like this, you've given up control. So you have to have a certain amount of faith. You meet the people involved. You kind of say, well, they seem to know what they're doing. You got to take a chance, and that's the same from the record label. There's many people involved with this thing. Once you sign to a major label or to any label, you give up control. You better know that, because that's the reality of it. And you don't know, and it's a risk, but this whole thing is a risk.
Everything is geared towards giving, hopefully, you know, every percent of your being to doing a fantastic show every night. When you find that not having a good meal or not having a good night's sleep takes away from that, you know, what's the point?
Forget what they told you. Forget what it means.
Well, you know, although the road's miserable, we're finding out that it's only from being on the road that we're getting people to know about us. You know, I guess, you know, apart from the actual performance, which is energizing and renewing and part of the pleasure, or perhaps the only pleasure of really being on the road. We're just proven week after week that when we go to a place and play, it has its results. That the people actually begin to be turned on to what we're doing. It seems that in no other way is it as palpable as touring. So, you know, there's no choice. If you measured everything against everything else that a band can do to become known, radio would probably end up being the most important.